Hello, my name's James Thomas. Here in Columbus, Ohio, on a sunny day. How everybody doing out there in video land? Well, I wanted to make another video, and this one is hopefully to get a lot better than the ones I've had before. This time, the video I want to cover this topic with spirits, and which is demonic spirits and good spirits, kingdom spirits. There's two separate kingdoms that exist in this world. One of the things that I've experienced in my lifetime was dabbling. You know, when you're young, you go through a phase where you experiment with different things. When you're like 18, 17, 16, 18, 19, 20, sometimes up into your early 20s, you go through the experimental stages. One of the things that I got into when I was real young back in the day is, one of those what they call Ouija boards out there. Well, and I know you heard of it. There's such things as tarot cards, Ouija boards, and things, and different other items that people dabble into the supernatural. The supernatural is really real, and my encounter was one time in my younger days. This is before my father. It was like a year before my father passed away, and I was hanging around with some wrong individuals because they dabbled into something like that. And I wanted to give people warning that whatever you be careful what you dabble into, because whatever you dabble into can hurt you down the line. It happened back to me during the year of 1990. I was at home in Youngstown, Ohio. I lived in an old house, and I had one of those Ouija boards. So one day I was feeling with a lot of emotions, going through a lot of emotions. These things feed off your emotions too. And so as I pull out the board, I start using it by myself, which most of the time you need two people to operate the board. I did it by myself, which was a bad idea. It was a bad idea. Either way, it was a bad idea. As a result of messing with something that's a supernatural tool that come up out of the demonic kingdom, something was released in my atmosphere, and it was like all day, all night. I was up on this thing. I was up all day, all night. As I was up on this thing all day, all night, up for 24 hours, something's being released in your atmosphere. And one of the things I remember, when I shut my eyes for a second, I saw a vision of this woman. She had a brown dress. She had albino. She was scary. It looked ghostly. Basically, she had white eyes. She had white hair, and she had an albino dress. And I remember, because she was right next, I guess she was the one that was touching me and tapping me. So as I closed my eyes, I drifted off into sleep. When I seen the vision of her, she was walking into darkness, going back to a dimension in darkness. The next day, I get up and I get on the Ouija board again. You figured that would scare me. I get back on the Ouija board again, and all of a sudden I felt that the atmosphere with spirits was around. And I feel these cold, the temperature was like ice cold. It was like ice cold. It was like, it was basically during the springtime, and so the house was pretty warm. So you can feel those dry pockets basically. So I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table. So as I look towards the right, as like the way the window is, you can see the form of this creature. and it had wings. It was like 6.5 feet tall. It had horns. It had ears or horns up to here. When you look down at the bottom of this creature, had animal feet. It had feet of an animal. You could see the form of this thing, and I was petrified and I was scared. I was so scared when I was released at that time that during my time of life, I went to go. It was a church next door. I was trying to get someone to pray for me, and it was a Catholic church, or I think it was like one of those churches like that. And the priest, they thought I was a nutball. He wasn't available or something like that. He kind of blew me off, and so I was scared to go back home. And so the next day I get back home, I'm scared to walk into that room where I had the activity from. So when I come in at night in the old house I was staying at, there was an aura. There was a light bluish aura. It was two angels, literally they were angels. I could see the tip of their shoulder. I could see this bluish aura that was around, and they were standing in the doorway, and I'm standing there looking. I couldn't see, but I could see the aura that was taking form. And so I was kind of spooked out because my mom was, at the time, was away at work. So the next day, I get up and I go get some water at the kitchen, and I'm messing around with the sink. All of a sudden, I can see, how you can see something with your natural eye, but the weird thing about it was my back was turned, and I had a stool in the kitchen, and on the stool stool was an angel. It was literally an angel that seen me, and he was sitting right there, and he seen that I knew that my spiritual sense knew that he was there, so he looked and acknowledged me, to let me know, and he just nodded his head just to let me know that everything's okay, that the kingdom of darkness was gone, and because God put His kingdom to push them, that took over that atmosphere. That was one incident. Another incident, this was when I was away at school. This is back in southeast Ohio. And I had one of these roommates, man, that was just a nutball. He was into witchcraft. He wanted to prove to me he was into witchcraft. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to. I'm already scared. I don't want to know how the way you summons anything. I don't want to know what you summon, something. And so he went in like a knucklehead, did it anyway. Now this is what he told me. Now I felt something in the atmosphere as he doing this summons. I felt something that he was doing, and I told him, I said, man, whatever you did, you send that thing back to where it came from. You send it back, and So finally, I think he's so-called dead. So he tells me the next day he was in a dream. He said that there were two angels, and there was a Native American Indian woman. The angels told him the next time he do something like that again, they're not going to protect him. And it scared him that he's been warned. He was warned because I told him that was good, because like, man, I didn't want you summoning something like that from another natural world, because young people, when they get off into a lot of these cult like settings where something's trying to tap into a different part of the world, you really don't know what you tap it into. There's a lot of people that don't know, and that they're ignorant about it. And once whatever they consume, you become whatever you consume. And once when you go to, you literally, it take God to break that curse, and to break that dimension over you. Because if it don't, and if you still doubt with it, the enemy can take you right there. Because now you literally, you will yourself over to his kingdom. And this is the truth. And that was one time. Prior before those two incidents, I had experienced. This was the good part. I had experience with God, and it was like a couple of days before my father passed away, and at the time I was hanging out with the same person. He had a house in another part of Youngstown, was on Hubbard, Ohio, which is like a main stretch called Main Street through Hubbard. Well, I think it was no, it was on Liberty, and it was a main stretch through town, and it was like it had the big high ceilings, and it was really big inside. It was really huge. Anyway, so one day I lay down in my sleep. I was taken up out of my body. I was taken to his house in the spirit realm. As I'm up in the spirit, I get to his house. There are angels that's in the atmosphere. Then there's a man that's there. The man, I couldn't see his face. I could only see his bronze golden feet, and all the way up to from right here up, I could not see. But in the dream, my spirit is looking at him in the dream, and we having a good conversation. I don't know, to this day, I don't know who the man was. I believe it was God, because it was like, so when I looked around the atmosphere as I'm talking to him, I'm looking around the atmosphere, and it's like 3 or 4 angels. I mean, it's like 3 or 4 these beautiful angels that they were just, they were in the room, in the atmosphere. So as we sit there conversate, I mentioned to the man whose face I couldn't see, but I could see that he had sandals. He had, like, sandals, gold. He had golden. He had golden. His skin was bronze, like a gold, like a dark gold. He was golden and he was bronze. And as we sitting there on the couch as we were talking, I felt so happy, and it felt so real. It felt so alive. It was like it is now, like a dimension like it is now. And it was no weird scenery, no weird dream effects, sound effects. You know how dreams go. Some dreams don't make no sense. This dream was so real in the atmosphere. I even kind of looking around and looked at the time, and the clock in the house didn't even move. The clock stood at the same time zone that it you know how you look over, it seemed like it took like a turn for time, but it stayed at the same minute and hour and everything. And I remember this clearly. So as right when I'm talking to the man, I asked to see his son, the one that's to come. All of a sudden, a dimension opens up in the plane atmosphere, like a dimension, like all of a sudden it's just like something like what man is trying to perfect, where it's like a hologram vision, just somebody just step right into the atmosphere. So as he stepped into the atmosphere, I looked at him, and a sheer shock went over my body. Literally, my body felt. You know how you see somebody famous and you get like super shocked, you in their presence? It was like that 10 times. And I was like, my mouth was dropped. I could feel my emotions while I'm in my sleep. I could feel everything. I could feel how it responded and everything. So I'm sitting there, I'm feeling going through all these emotions. Like, wow. And the man who I saw had a white gown. He was all in white, and he had a golden lasso. They call that around his waist. He had bronze dark skin, and I remember doing this in the dream because I'm looking at my skin, and I'm looking at his skin. I'm looking at my skin. I'm looking at his skin. His skin is like dark. Literally, it was like a dark gold, bronze gold. And I'm looking at this man, And I said, "You're him." And he just nodded his head. And so as we approach each other, he wrapped his arms around me. And I can feel the love, just pure love. I can't explain the love that I felt. It was like something love, like, it just felt eternity love. And I remember hugging him, and I just didn't want to let him go. And I didn't want to let him go just because I felt safe. And then he informs me he has to go back to Jerusalem. And I'm like, and I wanted to go with him. But I couldn't go because he was going back over to see, go back to Jerusalem to oversee the activity. So I was happy to have that experience with Jesus, Yeshua. And later found out it was Jesus, Yeshua. I talked with the man that I couldn't see his face. I saw his body. I'm looking around and looking at his angels, and they're beautiful. I mean, man, it's like something. The angels of God are beautiful. I mean, it's just something. Once you experience that in that dimension, you never experience. Life is never the same. So, all of a sudden, another hologram appears out of nowhere, like the way the atmosphere in your everyday atmosphere, all of a sudden, like, shoo, an angel comes through, and through this hologram, and says that Satan is causing some havoc around some part of the earth, something like so. The man says, "We got to go," and so I said, "Okay." So as I walked through this. As I came through this, I walked back through the dimension where I went through, and I went up in the clouds. I went up in the clouds. I got over my house where I was living. I could see it. I'm far up. I'm out of the body at this point. I see myself sleeping, and I'm drifting down, 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 down. And soon my spirit and my soul hit my body. I jumped up, and it was just like I was super excited. It was like excited, like I couldn't even sleep for a couple of days. I was so excited because I just had this experience. Within the next couple of days, my father passed away, and I was crushed. And that's before I went off and dabbled in other things. And that's the third time I experienced something. Actually, it's been like 5 times I've experienced things in this supernatural realm. And I was shocked, going to the part of the fact, and that's when it went downhill from there. Before that, during that time, I got saved the first time, and I gave my life to the Lord. And that was a supernatural experience too. Because people can, after you go down in the name of Jesus and get up, I mean, people they can see the glow over you. That once you get filled with the Spirit of God, you go down in the water, and there is a significance with this, and that's where the battle begins, because you have to stay consistently in with once you get saved, go down water and be filled with the Holy Spirit. And it was an awesome experience, because I remember the people were there. There was 2 people, my friend, it was 2 or 3 people that was there, and they saw the glory over me. They saw the glory of God was over me. I was glowing with the Lord. He just claimed, and it was washed up. But the thing about it was, you have to be persistent when you walk with God. You have to stay consistently. Because there's going to be temptations out there in the world where people don't understand that. You're going to be tempted. The enemy's going to come and tempt you and try to take whatever that God gave you, because that's something special. That's something holy.